Hello, my name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast shorts. There's no co-host on these shorts episodes. These are now around 2 to 4 minute, sometimes as long as 6 to 10 minute observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 2 to 4 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Even that business book your coworker won't stop raving about because it quote unquote changed their life, but you can't see any difference in their leadership behavior. So how good could that author be? Genius is rare, but courage is in even shorter supply. I've quoted the venture capitalist Peter Thiel before on this show in these shorts episodes, and in the realm of leadership, courage is definitely in short supply. But that is changing. The last 25 years have been a time, at least in the West, where the theory that great men could move the history of the world was put on hold. Instead, leaders in the West in general, and in the United States in particular, have been held hostage by the nihilist notion that leaders are bound by impersonal and unknowable forces, only able to dance to a tune delivered to them by a machine-like algorithm. This kind of thinking leads to the empowerment of the Lilliputians in our midst, the thoughtless and algorithmically controlled bureaucrats of the administrative apparatuses of companies, communities, and even countries and nation states. However, the Achilles heel of those bureaucrats is one that always trips them up eventually, and that Achilles heel is history itself. Now, I've talked previously about the Russians moving the Overton window with the Ukraine war on conversations around the use of nuclear weapons that had been put on hold since the end of the Cold War in the 1980s. But there's another conversation that's been put on hold, and that's the conversation about great men. In case you don't know, great men of history who possessed levers long enough to change the world are, to quote that individual who lived a long time in the 19th century, Thomas Carlyle, the leaders of men, these great ones, the modelers, patterns, and in a wide sense creators of whatsoever the general mass of men contrive to do or attain. All things that we see standing, accomplished in the world, are properly the outer material result, the practical realization and embodiment of thoughts that dwell in the great men sent into the world. The soul of the whole world's history, it may be justly considered, were the history of these. Close quote. These types of men, and women as well, just like the strong gods of the past, are returning to leadership prominence in a Western world that has worked through the impacts of 2.5 generations of small, Lilliputian-minded bureaucratic men possessing administrative minds, attempting to connive, control, and to make the tiger of the American public, above all else, comply. They reached the high water mark of their power and influence from the spring of 2020 to the winter of 2021, and they have been, since then, fighting their inevitable decline. But it will take the courage of great men in families, in neighborhoods, in communities, and in churches to continue to push their ilk back 1 inch at a time. And they won't go without a fight. Great men of history, it is time to lead and be of courage yet again. And well, that's it for me. Guest players, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, and everywhere else where podcasts are available. There's also a video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the video version of this podcast on the Leadership Toolbox channel on YouTube. Just search for Leadership Toolbox and hit the subscribe button there on YouTube. And while you're doing that, leave a 5-star review if you like what we're doing here on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Just go below the player and hit 5 stars. We need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way to help grow this show. And tell all your friends, of course, in leadership. By the way, if you don't like what we're doing here, well, you can always listen to another leadership show. There are several other good ones out there. At least that's what I've heard. All right. Well, that's it for me.